This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the latest Harts webinar. Just the usual stuff that we have to do, the usual housekeeping that we have to do first of all, is we have a disclaimer to read out that the following presentation is provided for general guidance only, and professional advice should always be sought before any transaction is undertaken. Individual circumstances can vary, and therefore no responsibility can be accepted by Harts Limited or any of their affiliates for any action taken or any decision made to refrain from action by attendees of this presentation. Okay, before we get cracking on the main topic today, a couple of updates. It's form filling season yet again within the accountancy profession. So we've got P11Ds to do. So that's in relation to benefits in kind. So if you've had a company car, private health insurance, or anything else that is personal and paid for by the company, you need to return it on a P11D, and that includes overdrawn loan accounts as well. So if you've got anything like that, you should have had a letter from us in relation to it, but we might not have picked it up. Just in case, get in touch and we can certainly help you out. And Form 42, what that relates to is if you change the share capital in your company or change shares or move shares around, we have to report all those shares back to HMRC, all the movements back. And that's just a form to be able to do it. And again, we tend to pick all of those up. But if you have not heard from us and you have done some share movements, then get in touch and we'll be able to sort that out for you. As always, these are all our Harts resources. You can follow us on LinkedIn. We have a YouTube channel, which I'm sure you're all aware of. Just search for Harts Limited, and all the webinars that we've done over the last 3 years or so are up there. So feel free to browse anything in there as well. Follow us on Twitter, and we're also on Spotify. So you can follow us there as well. We've got some interesting podcasts on there. Feel free to jump onto Spotify and have a listen to those, maybe on your way home, or if you're out walking in this beautiful weather that we've got at the moment, then feel free to do so. And the next webinar, which will be the final one before we break for the summer, is on free ports and what they mean to you. And if you're importing and exporting, this is one for you. We've got Angus Hurst, who is the head of customs at SSO Logistics, who are based over near Liverpool, and he's going to be guest speaker and guiding us through all the benefits of free ports and what they can do for you. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to make Naomi the presenter, and I'm going to ask her to give the presentation on cyber resilience, what Cyber Resilience Centre does, who they are, how they can help you, and so on. So over to you, Naomi.
Thank you. I've just got a error message come up. Just 1 second.
If anyone in the meantime has any questions, just feel free to either stick them in the chat box. You can see the chat box top right hand corner of your screen, or just unmute yourself and shout out. We don't mind the interruptions. That's great. We can see that.
You can see that? Great.
Yeah, lovely.
Right. Hello, everybody. My name is Naomi. I'm the client manager at the Northwest Cyber Resilience Centre. So the NWCRC for short, because it is a bit of a mouthful, this one. So we are, I'm going to talk to you about sort of two things. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do and how we can support businesses such as yourselves from across the region, and a little bit about cybercrime in itself, and answer any questions, or if you want to sort of go through any of your experiences that you may have had in terms of cyber incidents, feel free to sort of just jump in. So we are a not-for-profit police-led partnership, so it's policing and private sector. So we're headed up by the Northwest Regional Organised Crime Unit. So they are sort of the overarching body, I suppose, across the Northwest, and they look after all the forces, but deal with sort of the more serious stuff in terms of drugs, and all that, the serious organised crime, and cyber crime falls under their sort of category, if you like. So cybercrime is an ever-evolving problem that we're all facing on a daily basis. In some cases, we are constantly under what we would say is a cyber attack from phishing in our personal emails, in our work emails, and it's something that's not going away easily. In fact, as technology evolves, it's something that we as business owners need to be more and more aware of in order to protect ourselves. So that's just my name there, full name, Client Relationship Manager. So a little bit about the CRC in itself. So a not-for-profit business. There were one of 9 centres across England and Wales. So established back in 2019. So we are covering the whole of the Northwest, but the centres in each region. And we all operate by delivering services and resources to SMEs across each region. So if you are not based in the Northwest, or you know somebody that would benefit from being a member of the local centre, just refer them through to the relevant centre in their area. So we are supported by a number of partners that help us sort of deliver our services, make sure that we are producing the right sort of content and experience for our clients. So people such as CGI, Siemens, Manchester Digital, the local universities, Northrop Grumman, they help us we have a guidance council, so they support us and we go through our plans, what we're doing for the future. And they support us with that, which is great. So, not-for-profit police-led partnership. So the aim is to provide professional cyber security and affordable services to small businesses. So we are a mix of police officers, security consultants, and university students. So what helps us keep it affordable is we have in-house cyber experts that are employed by the CRC, so Cyber Resilience Centre. And we also employ a cohort of students, so students that are studying cybersecurity from universities across the Northwest. We've got an active recruitment in place at the moment. So if you know anybody that would be interested who's doing cybersecurity or computer science, please point them in our direction. But they help us deliver the services. So when we deliver a particular service, for example, we run simulated phishing campaigns, they can help run that. And as part of their university studies, they're getting real world client experience, which is supporting their degree. So by working with us, any client that works with us is supporting, I would say, the future tech talent of the Northwest, because these people are going into some really great positions once they graduate. So yeah, that's a little bit about how we do it. So current threats to business. Has anybody got any suggestions on what that might be? Has anybody got any experience in what their threats that they've seen to their businesses?
I think we've all seen the ones where the fake invoices coming through. We recently have had one in relation to HMRC actually asking for money in relation to outstanding pay as you earn, and they've even managed to get the collection reference right, which is frightening.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the latest one which has come out.
Yeah.
Anybody else on this call seen stuff that would go on? Obviously, you've all had a rich uncle in Nigeria who's wishing to deposit $20 million into your account if you give them the bank details. But has anybody else got any other experiences? You just unmute yourself and shout out.
Yeah, Steve, we constantly into our inquiries inbox get phishing emails. We do send them on to report@phishing.gov.uk, I think is the email address. But that's a daily occurrence because the email address is on the website.
Yeah, so phishing is probably the biggest threat to any business. 83% of attacks come from phishing emails. The rest of it is sort of an attack that will occur after clicking on a phishing. So I will run through some of the stats for you, and then I will talk a bit more in detail about phishing. So 32% of businesses have identified cybersecurity breaches in the last 12 months. This is what we know about. Reported data. We do know that not every business is reporting cyber attacks on their business. So we do suspect that this figure is a lot higher than what is being reported. People don't report it for various reasons. One may be that they don't know where to report it to. And if, in case you're wondering, it would be action fraud, which then filters through into the local police forces or the organised crime units from that particular area. So yeah, they don't know where to report it to, or through fear of people finding out that they've been a victim of a cyber crime as well. We do understand that reputational damage is a concern of business owners as well. So if data has been breached, to share that information with their suppliers, their clients, is a big concern. So we do know these factors are hindering the reporting. Therefore, this figure is probably not completely accurate. So the estimated cost for cybercrime to businesses is around £15,500. So it does vary depending on your business size. So it can go down if you're a small business, and obviously increase if you are a larger business as well. But what we do know is it is super costly in any way, regardless of your business size, because even if you're a small business or a sole trader, for example, to incur any kinds of costs can be detrimental to the business, and therefore, it's likely that businesses are unable to recover from such an attack. So despite this, just 18% of businesses actually train their staff in cybersecurity. And when we say train in cybersecurity, we don't mean sort of being able to do all the coding, ethical hacking, anything like that. We just mean general awareness and education in terms of what to look out for in terms of a phishing email, how to spot it. If you are all business owners within your organisation, you have employees, it is well within your interest to ensure that all of your staff have got some sort of cyber knowledge and what to look for in terms of certainly phishing, and to look out for scams, these emails that are coming through asking you to pay money, because that will be the difference between you being a victim and not being a victim in a lot of cases. So only 3 in 10 businesses have completed a cyber risk assessment in the past year. So is there anybody on this call that has ever done a cyber risk assessment on your organisation? No?
One has, Steve, one has, that's all, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I can't see the other.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so yeah, so that it's really good. Cyber hygiene is one key takeaway I would suggest to everybody, is to spend some time, because we do know that you're all busy working, doing your business, making sure you're getting sorting your clients, and running the day-to-day of your organization. But if you can spend some time dedicated to cyber hygiene of your business, that will make a real key difference. So, and that can include a full risk assessment, that can include just sort of looking at your own policies, putting some policies in place if you haven't already got them, and that sort of thing. So current threats are phishing, number one, massive problem. I think Microsoft quoted something like this: they flag 60,000 emails a minute, something ridiculous, for phishing. We are under constant attack from phishing, and some of them look really obvious. They've got terrible spelling mistakes. You can spot them a mile off, and we've certainly got better at spotting phishing emails as time has gone on. But it just means that the criminals are evolving themselves, and they are working a little bit harder to get you to click on something, and that could mean that they spend a little bit longer getting to know your business, getting to understand how your reference numbers work, for example, like you mentioned, and taking a chance on those, or finding out who your director is, or the person that's in charge of finances, and getting their name. because we put so much information out onto the publicly available sources these days, such as social media, certainly LinkedIn in the business world. We share our who works for our businesses, what positions they're in. We share a lot of information like that, so it's very, very easy to get that information. So a little bit of effort from a cyber criminal will mean that they've evolved their phishing email and their success rate of somebody clicking on it and falling for it. So just to go over, it says phishing involves criminals sending untargeted mass emails to many people asking for sensitive information such as login details or encouraging them to visit fake websites. So obviously looking for credential information is one of the main reasons for phishing as well. We'll talk about passwords in a second, but passwords will really play into that section of phishing. So evolving on from that, one of the more serious ones, but probably less common, is ransomware. Does anybody know what ransomware is or had any experience with ransomware?
Know what it is, but we've not had any experience, thankfully.
No. Okay, good. So ransomware is where your systems will be held to ransom. So they will be locked down, encrypted, and you will receive some sort of notice or warning notice to say you've got 24 hours to pay us 10,000 Bitcoin. Otherwise, we're going to publish all your information, all your client information onto the dark web. So it's a very, very scary experience for anybody that goes through a ransomware attack. It's one of the more sophisticated crimes, more from an organised crime point of view. They operate it as a business. So they will, negotiate with you. They will come to agreements with you on what ransomware to pay. The advice is never to pay ransomware because this money usually goes to ill-gotten gains, especially if it's from an organised crime group that's from abroad. It can be going to all sorts of places. So the police advice is not to pay ransomware. We do understand that the choice of losing your business completely and all your data and all your access compared to paying a ransomware of 10,000 might be beneficial to you. And in some cases, businesses do decide this. We would always say to you, just be super cautious with this kind of stuff because you are dealing with criminals and they don't tend to operate morally, generally speaking. So you may get your data back, but they may also still release it on the dark web and put it up for sale. And they may take your money and never give you your data back as well. So they may sort of con you twice, I suppose. Over. So it's a very, very serious one, incredibly stressful for anybody going through it. We tend to get phone calls into the CRC where people are being attacked. So people go on Google and they'll Google, cyber help, and the Cyber Resilience Centre will come up and they'll ring me. And unfortunately, there is very little that we can do unless you've got a massive budget to get incident response involved, which we don't deliver, unfortunately. But if you've got that kind of budget to get them involved to try and recover your data, it's not a guarantee. There is not a lot we can do, and that's why we focus so much on the resilience and the prevention of this happening in the first place. The next one is.
Can I just ask a question? Sorry, Stephen.
Yeah.
A lot of firms are now hosting their software in the cloud and all the data in the cloud. Is it the cloud provider's responsibility to ensure they've got the right security, or is it ours?
Yeah, so your cloud provider will have some good security measures in place. But what the general messaging that we go out to business owners is to make sure that as an owner of a business or in an organisation, your cyber hygiene is as good as a firewall, for example. So if you put a firewall in place, it's a really good piece of kit that will prevent people from getting in. But if people are not educated on phishing, for example, and they click in, they're going to get in that way. So we would say it's within a business owner's responsibility or an organisation's responsibility to have good cyber hygiene and practices in place, as well as choosing a good reputable provider for your cloud services and so on. Okay.
Thank you.
So the next one is impersonation. So impersonation can include fraudsters pretending to be your business, hijacking your invoices, contacting your customers in order for them to be paid instead of you. So this is probably what you were referring to earlier in terms of the emails that are coming in, where they're impersonating certain organisations that you would usually deal with or normally deal with, mocking up invoices. We've had examples where business owners have been that are friends that have been sat in a pub and having a pint, and they've found out that neither have been being paid because someone's intercepted their invoices between them and been stealing the money from those invoices, but neither were aware and until they were talking about it over a pint in the pub. So it's a serious problem, and it is something we would recommend you review as part of certainly you guys and what you do from a accountancy point of view. I can imagine that you're dealing with this kind of stuff all the time. And that could be as simple as if somebody changes bank details, if one of your client changes the bank details, having a little process in place for that alone. So would you potentially ring the client? Is that an option to do? Would you then generate, and as a part of a standard process, start a new email with your contact, not using the one that it's just come in from, and double checking that they have actually changed their details. So if you've not got those kind of processes in place, it was definitely worth sort of looking at that, just to put that extra measure in to make sure that this impersonation doesn't happen and you're not paying the criminal changing details. Has anybody got any questions on that? No?
No.
Okay, so what does a ransomware attack look like? So you may have seen this before, you may have not. Has anybody heard of the WannaCry virus that hit the NHS a
Yeah.
good few years ago now? Yeah, so this is the ransomware message that appeared on their screen. So it's very sort of like an urgent message. It's got a timer on there to say, this you need to pay it in order to put pressure on. And it's quite scary to imagine if you're going to work on a Monday morning and you've got this sort of message on your screen. I've also heard instances where the printer's printed out the message, like 1,000 pages of print of this message being printed. So it all sounds very scary. But the point of it is to frighten people, to put urgency on people, make people panic, make people pay the money to get it back. So I'm going to talk about things you can do to prevent it. One of them is updates. So with the NHS one, there was an update on their system that was published, I think it was around 6 months before, but because the systems that update was never ran, that's how it got in and infiltrated most of and basically locked down the NHS. So it just goes to show the importance of sort of doing some of these smaller things will really support your resilience from a big type of attack like this.
Did the
So how
NHS pay? Did the NHS pay in the end? Do we know?
do you know? I don't know what
Right.
happened in the end. I'll try and find out, but I can't remember
Mhm.
what the outcome was
Okay.
of it. So how to protect your business. So number one, education of employees, super, super important. Give them some training. We provide security awareness training as well, but there's lots and lots of resources out there available. I'd recommend you go to the National Cyber Security Centre, so the NCSC website. So I'll send you some links over, some genuine links over shortly. I'll put them in the chat. But yeah, they have lots of resources available on their website. Come to our website. We have put lots of information out as well. But the NCSE website does have sort of infographics as well, which are really useful. So you can share them out on email. You can print them off and put them on the wall in the office. They talk a lot about phishing in there. So education, number one, will really help support your resilience. Passwords. Use of really strong passwords. So my boss is a detective inspector in the police, and he always asks the room, does anybody use their pet's name in their password or their children's name in their password? And usually we get one or two sheepish hands that come up and say, yeah. The next question is, does anybody reuse the same password? And we'll get the same answer. So I'm not going to ask you guys that's fine. But we do get people sort of speaking out at events and they say, yeah, well, oh yeah, I use the same password for everything. I'm like, no, shush, don't tell everybody that, because now you've just told a whole room of people that you've got one password for everything. So you're just making it more of a risk. And then I go and tell them to change all the passwords. But strong use of passwords is super important. And it's even more important to use different passwords for each application that you use. Now, I recognise that is a challenge at this day and age, considering the amount of things that we have to sign into. So we do recommend a password manager if you're not already using one. Really good bit of kit that you can use from a reputable source that will store and generate really good secure passwords for you. And as long as you've got one really good strong password to get into that password manager, you should remain pretty secure with that. We'd recommend you do your research, use a reputable company. We don't specifically recommend one or the other. We would leave that up to yourselves, but yeah, probably a paid one is probably a better one to use if you can. And then going back to software, keeping your software up to date. So many people will not update their devices, or they'll push it into midnight or whatever it might be. I'll do it tomorrow. And just going back to the NHS WannaCry virus that came in, there was they noticed the provider noticed that there was a security issue that was patched 6 months prior to that attack. And had they have done that, that would have massively, it may have probably not even happened, if at all, or would have reduced that sort of damage that was caused. So a lot of providers do, such as Microsoft and Google, for example, they spend millions of pounds a year on cybersecurity, looking for vulnerabilities, patching software. It's really bad for them if they have an attack. So they want to push that security updates out to you. So just do it as soon as you can get it, update your systems, update your software. The next one is review your cyber incident response plans. So has anybody got an incident response plan in place?
I don't know.
No?
That's the answer to that one. We need to find out.
Yeah. So if you were to go, assuming that you're all in an office, for example, if you were to come into work on a Monday morning and you've got the ransomware message on your screen, everything's been locked, what would you do in that instance? Where would all your contacts be? Would they be stored onto your system? Who would you ring? Your provider, your MSP provider, is your contact details that's stored in your phone, or are they on your computer? And it's just thinking about that sort of scenario, what would happen, what would you do, and having a plan in place if should the worst case happen. I mean, hopefully you would never be in that position, but a sort of a bit of a plan, backup plan to have a look at that. Just makes it a little bit easier in that position should you be in it, if unfortunately, hopefully you won't be. So it just goes on again to say about educating your current employees. So humans will always be one of the biggest risks. Education is as important as any security system. Making staff aware will help of the risk, will help protect you. Strong passwords, as I mentioned earlier, so weak passwords can easily be cracked. We did have a video at this point of one of our students from our cohort in his bedroom. He recorded a video where he basically did a bit of password cracking, and it took him literally the enter of the button on the keyboard for a password to be cracked. In the example that he gave, we took it out because some of it was a little bit complicated going on. Some people found it a bit, went over the heads a little bit. But the point was to show people when you know what you're doing in terms of password cracking, it is so easy for cyber criminals to do this sort of thing. It's not a difficult concept. So the stronger that you put your passwords in, the better. And the national advice is to use 3 random words, or it's now called a passphrase rather than a password. So 3 random words, such as blue curtains, bagpipes. And we always add into that, put numbers in there, any sort of special characters to make it that bit more difficult. And if you are using a password manager, they offer to generate a password for you, which is usually just a jumble of everything. You would never remember it on our own, but it's a really, really good, strong password. So make the use of that if you're already using it. Next to that would be multi-factor authentication. Super, super important. It puts an additional step in place to prevent somebody getting in. So if somebody does get through with your password, they also then need to get through to multi-factor authentication. So it's an extra barrier for somebody to get into. So if you're receiving a text message with a code, it's likely that somebody's got your password. So we'd recommend that you go and change your password and make it really strong, and thank your lucky stars that you've got two-factor authentication in place, because it's prevented somebody from getting in with your password. So the NWCRC, Northwest Cyber Resilience Centre, and how we can help you. So we offer a free membership to the centre. So free membership, basically we push out lots of resources, as I mentioned earlier. We do blog posts, we do industry related blog posts as well, so specific to industries such as yourselves, accounting, and we do them for them all basically. We look at, obviously we speak to businesses and we look at what's affecting people the most, and we link in with, obviously, with the regional organised crime unit, so they share with us information about what's sort of trending at the moment, any particular trends. A recent one was to do with Facebook, actually. So again, we speak to businesses that solely operate on social media, and once the social media is hacked, it's very difficult to get back. But what we were finding through the police is they were using the paid advertising that's sort of linked in with the Facebook account, so they were hacking it, going through the paid advertising to pay themselves basically, but then locking the account out, so putting some really horrible stuff on to get the account sort of banned, if you like. So nobody could get back in, nobody could reaccess it at all, and you couldn't take your payment details off from the advertising. So there's all sorts of things like that that you probably have to. I mean, they wouldn't even think that it happened, but they do. And we can share that information and keep you up to speed with what's going on and what's changing. And we also provide lots of free resources, materials, and a free incident response plan as well. So for those of you who don't have one, we can provide you a bit of a template for that as well to get you going. So we do have some services, so paid for services, as I mentioned, not for profit. So we do keep costs as low as possible. So the services consist of security awareness training. So this is designed and delivered by a cyber expert. So it's a virtual training session of 90 minutes. It covers a number of topics specifically to train staff in what to look out for and how to be resilient and reduce risk of being attacked. And we talk a lot about culture as well in business, cybersecurity culture, to get everybody involved and understand that even though one of your staff members might not be working in the in the finance section, they might not be dealing with invoices, but they're still equally as responsible as the next person, because it's everybody's responsibility, and the impact that it has on the overall business, therefore their job, is something that sometimes we need to sort of go through and explain. So next we do, which is really fun, I quite enjoy this one, is a simulated phishing exercise. So this is where we will actively phish an organisation without any risks. We will run a week-long campaign of phishing that goes through to staff inboxes, and then we gather all that data and we put it all in a report and report back to the business owners or people in charge, and who will then understand more what their risk is of being attacked. And that helps. It's not an exercise to point the finger at anybody in particular, but what it does is it helps support a knowledge of risk, of how likely you are to fall victim. I'll give you an example. We recently did a phishing exercise. an attachment on it. We do a number of different templates. Some could be from HMRC, some will be from Microsoft, some will be a delivery parcel. And I can tell you from experience that they will click. You'd be surprised what everybody clicks on. People will click on anything, even when it's a parcel, for example, and people don't get parcels delivered to work and stuff like that. So people reply to emails in Chinese. We've had that before as well, asking why you're speaking in Chinese. I'm just like, well, they clearly don't speak in, your colleague doesn't speak in Chinese, but so anyway, so we send links on there, and we send attachments. And one of our latest campaigns, the lady that opened the email, she clicked. Not only did she click on the attachment once, she clicked on it 12 times. So if you didn't open the first time and put a ransomware on the system the first time around, it definitely would have done it by the 12th. So what it does for a business, it gives a really good overview of actually, okay, so this person that's opened this email 12 times, it's not about going giving a big telling off. It's about helping them understand, okay, this is the risk of doing that. This is what it means by opening these attachments, and this is what you need to do to look out for it to make sure you don't fall for it again. So supporting your colleagues, supporting your employees to make sure that they are, resilient against attack, I suppose. We do some more technical services as well, so network vulnerability assessment. So when we talk about vulnerabilities, we mean open doors that exist within the network, or open doors that exist within your website coding, for example. And these are used, they're called vulnerabilities because they're used by criminals as a way in to your business, to your website, to your network. So we scan for those, and we do a full assessment on anything like that, and then we report back to you and give you some remediation and help you fix those issues. So a little bit more technical, however, very important to run if you're running from a network, or if you're using a website, and your website is, sometimes some websites are just a shop window into the business, and they don't really do anything else. And then other websites are a lot more complex, and there's a lot more going in. There's logins, there's all that kind of stuff. So the detrimental impact of a website being taken down or hacked is more severe, depending on what your use is of your website. We then can do assessments as well. So we do a cyber risk assessment, which is a real big overview of your business, including policies, technical controls, and we go and do some open sourcing as well, which is kind of the digital footprint assessment, which is listed here. Open sourcing means that we will go away using certain tools to go and find out information about you and your organisation, what's out there. Very easy to do from a cyber expert point of view and a cyber criminal point of view. We found things such as director signatures, financial records, all the way. We work in some education as well, so we even report things back that we find on Twitter, where the school had put a picture of a student with a certificate showing, but in this certificate it had some sort of key numbers and some personal information. So we report that kind of thing back to help them understand, actually, by doing that, this is the risk that you're causing. So you might want to go and take that post down, or put, include in your policy about social media policies, sharing personal information, what's in the background, that sort of thing. So we will put all that into one report for you. So it's a really interesting report to do from a general overview of your cyber resilience. So it just goes on to say how you can help us build a cyber resilient community. So we are working really hard to get out and about. We cover the whole of the Northwest. So I've got a Detective Inspector, Dan Janassi, who heads the centre, and Detective Chief Inspector Chris Maddox, who is Head of Economic Fraud and Cybercrime for the Organised Crime Unit. And we get out as much as we possibly can across the Northwest to spread this message and talk about cyber, and raise our profile in terms of what support we can offer. If you have or know anybody that would be interested in speaking to us or becoming a free member or using any of the services, please do pass on my information, and we will happily support them. And that's it from me. That's my our contact details there, website, email information. There's a QR code there that will take you to our website. So yeah, has anybody got any questions for me?
Wow. I think you've scared them all into submission just at the moment.
Naomi,
But
Steve, I've
Yeah.
yeah,
got a
we can
question.
hear you. Yeah, far
Um,
away.
this is obviously Northwest orientated as a Northwest business. I actually got a guide off one of your colleagues, Jared, only a couple of days ago.
All right, brilliant.
Um,
Okay.
well, is this available to all UK businesses? Because many accountants, many brokers will have businesses across the UK that would want to access this sort of stuff. Is it countrywide or just Northwest?
It is countrywide, so there's 9 centres across England and Wales. So each there's a centre in each region. So they will push out all the information, all the resources. So if you've got clients that are interested in it, they can go to there's a national website as well. But if you want to use me as a contact, I will happily sort of refer them over to the relevant centres. I'm quite happy to do that as a bit of an ease. But yeah, for myself, we just cover the northwest, but we're very close with the other side. Certainly the northeast as well. We're very close with. They came visiting on Monday, so we do a lot of cross collaboration work with them with the other centres.
Cheers, thanks.
Next
Welcome.
question is from Simon. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes, hi. A little point, first of all, about passwords. I was
Yeah,
reading the other day about Google said they're going to start closing Gmail accounts that have had, are you still using disclosed passwords, so passwords that might have been sort of
yeah,
breaches in the past. So they are going to start clamping down on that, which is quite interesting.
interesting. Yeah,
But my question is really about ransomware, particularly.
yeah.
And I guess probably as small businesses, you kind of think, well, we're not going to be the target of a ransomware attack. Why would they be interested in me? But I
Mhm.
guess that's probably not the right attitude. I guess these are pretty random kind of attacks, are they?
They can be, yeah. So when I talked about vulnerabilities, so sometimes they will be really sophisticated in terms of who they know who the target's going to be,
Hmm.
but a lot of it is down to what vulnerabilities they can get into. So if you've got a known vulnerability that's a network in your network and
Yeah,
they happen to come across it, then they'll get in and they'll try the luck as well. So it's a little bit can be similar to the phishing scenario where they just fire out millions of phishing and just hope that something lands somewhere, and
yeah.
it'll
So
kind of be like that.
opportunist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Which a lot
and
of criminals
in the case of a ransomware attack like that, what actually is at risk? Um,
are.
is it
So
access to your online systems, or is it more your local data on machines that are then accessed?
yeah, I think it depends. So from the ones that we've dealt with in the past, it can be all the client anything different like that, all the client information. So basically, they can't access the system at all. They've got no way into it. It's fully encrypted, so they've got
Hmm.
no client information. It's all their business contacts, all their everything that's locked away basically. So really can be really detrimental from that point of view. So we've had a really big client actually that basically had to wipe everything and start again. And they were in the food chain, national food chain. So
Yeah,
the only way that they could do that is because some of their staff were still writing stuff down on paper,
yeah,
because the ransomware had managed to get into the backups and all kinds. It was a real mess.
hmm.
Um, but it does depend. But this is why we're just so heavily focused on
How they get
on
in?
yeah, and the prevention of it and doing it. And
Yeah,
it is usually the hardest challenge I have is to try and convince people that it can happen to you. And like I said, I do get a lot of people ringing when it is happening to them, and it's awful. The stress and the emotional pain that they're going through in that moment, and to be able to turn around and say, "I'm really sorry, but there is nothing. I can't help you. There's nothing that
yeah,
unless you can afford business incident response, which is not guaranteed to do anything because
yeah,
it's never a guarantee. There's not a lot we can do, and that's even for like Facebook accounts. I've had people who've got like a holiday cottage, I don't know, in Wales, for example, and the Facebook's been taken over. They've got 5,000 followers, and it's the whole business, and it's been
yeah.
hacked, and you can't. they can't even speak to Facebook to get it back. It's not nice, not nice at all.
Yeah.
Not
No,
nice.
it is quite a scary prospect when you think how reliant we are on data and
Yes.
technology. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why, when I talk about, giving your business that time to just really think about the impacts and the risk of something like this happening, what does it look
Mhm.
like for you? It will be different for everybody. What does it look like to you, and what little things you can do to prevent it? And it might be that you put a really strong password policy in place and make everybody change the password, switch on multi-factor authentication, and just by doing those smaller things, actually you're reducing your risk from where you were. If you're not already doing them, you're
Yeah.
massively reducing your risk there at that point. So yeah, recommend anybody to just take that time to think about it. The fact that
Yeah.
you're on this today is great. That's a really good start that you're here, and you obviously you want to talk about it and want to think about cyber. So
Yeah.
that's a good place. It's the ones that are not here that I need to reach
Absolutely.
out to.
We've got one further
Great.
question from Alex. Alex, do you want to ask this? Alex Heslett. I think he's not sure if he's still there. Do you have a list of approved MSPs who you work with implementing various solutions?
We have MSPs, not as such, but we have a Cyber Essentials partner scheme. So we have a small selection of partners that can deliver things like Cyber Essentials and other services as well. So if you are interested, if you go to our website, we've listed them there, and we're
Okay.
happy to make any kind of referral if you're looking for any particular service.
Okay. Has anybody else got anything they want to ask? No? Well, I think myself and Naomi, will stay online for a few minutes afterwards after we finish recording if you want to have something which isn't recorded. But in the meantime, thank you very much indeed, Naomi. That was fascinating, and it was real true insight into what we all should be doing. And I think now I'm going to get on my phone and change my passwords and see what other stuff I can change as well. So thank you very much indeed for that presentation. Really fascinating. If you want to catch up on anything, please feel free to have a look on our website and on our YouTube channel. It will be going up on YouTube later on today. Thanks again, and I hope you all have a great day.